Well, hello there. Welcome once more to Quantua's Kitchen. And if this is your first time stopping by, I'd like to say a very warm akwaaba to you. Today we are going to be making some egg stew, good old Ghanaian egg stew with some yam. So apesi ni kusua foye is what is on the menu today, and I hope you do this with me. So let's clean our tomatoes, get them washed, and then we'll proceed with that. So I have here, I'm going to be using just one very large onion, and I really am pretty well stuck for this, all that is going on, but I just realized I have probably like 10 onions remaining, and I love onions. I cook with a lot of onions. I bought this huge bag of onions like somewhere probably in November, and I'm now running out. But it was white onions. Every now and then I'll buy some red onions because I like to cook with that as well, but I wouldn't have that in like a big bulk. I would buy maybe a few pounds of that and add to this. But I'm really almost out of onions, and I know I don't think that is scarce. I could pretty much get it, but it's just so hard to go running around with two little kids, to go in the grocery store with them. Our schedules are so tight, so it's hard, but we'll manage. I'll find a way to get some onions. I hope you have pretty much everything that you need. And so in this video, what I'm cooking today is pretty much me using the ingredients that I have readily available at home, trying not to go out. Kindly try as much as possible to stay home. If it's not absolutely necessary, make do with what you have. And in this time, that is all we can do. Make the most with whatever is in your fridge, your freezer, your pantry, and let this period pass us by, as quickly as it can, because we need everything to go back to normal as soon as it can be. So anyway, I have my garlic and my onion clean, and I'm just going to go ahead and wash them also, and then we'll proceed with that. I'll cut the onions and we'll start making our kusua froye. This is like classic Ghanaian egg stew, Back in the day, like this was a big deal, with your yam or your rice, with some corned beef or tinapa. That is one mackerel, the canned mackerel in tomato sauce. I never really like canned mackerel, so I normally don't want to put that in my egg stew. I'd rather do corned beef. I don't have corned beef, but I have some salmon in my freezer, and that is what I intend to use to make this stew. And so just when I was using my knife to mince this, I remembered I bought this garlic mincer like months ago. I have never used it. I really like to have my garlic chopped the way it is on the board. But I was like, you know what? I have this little thing that I paid for and never used. So let me just go ahead and use it. And, just want to show you, I found this in Home Goods. And if ever you find something like that, I think it's a nifty little thing to have, very handy, useful. So grab one if you ever find it. I don't remember the name or anything, but this is better than a garlic press. I have a garlic press and it makes it too fine. I like to have my little chunks in my garlic. So my onions for egg stew, palava sauce, certain kinds of foods. I don't know. I've realized I always chop them because that is how I grew up knowing how to make it. My mom, I don't know where she got that impression. Certain things, onion for, tomato stew has to be sliced. For egg stew, ampesi stew, all kinds of, garden egg has to be chopped. I really don't know, but that's how I've always done it. And I'm just laughing at myself for still sticking to doing certain things the way I was taught. And I was just wondering, does any of you do things like that? Like were you taught to do things in certain ways that, they are so irrational, but you still do it? Let me know. Kindly let me know in the comment section. So I've cut up my tomatoes. I'm just cutting them into halves, and I'm trying to deseed them because I'm going to be making, actually I didn't tell you, this egg stew is going to be chunky. I like my egg stew to be chunky. I'm just going to cut up the tomatoes. So this is totally blender free. If you don't have a blender, the students, this is a perfect recipe for you. You can make this if you have no blender, if you broke your blender or anything, this is like the perfect stew you can make. So my seeds, actually, I strained them, took the juice out of that, and froze it. I'm going to use it in cooking something else, but I don't want all that liquid in the stew. You want it to cook as fast as possible. This is like shabu shabu stew, You don't have time to waste on that. So my tomatoes are all diced, beautiful, fresh, thankful to be able to enjoy fresh food for however long it lasts. And then once we ran out, I don't know, maybe we'll stick to canned tomatoes and all, but for now, let's enjoy some freshness. So I have this three salmon portions has probably been in my freezer for, Odelia, if you are watching this is like leftovers from you and your kids' graduation party. So you can only imagine how long. This is somewhere in the fall. I had a lot of it, and this is what was remaining. I don't know. I always see it. I was like, it's not enough to cook a whole meal, and it stayed in my freezer for like months. So, well, now I'm going to make use of everything. So I brought these out, thawed them, and I'm going to be grilling them. I want that smokiness from the salmon, and that is what I'm going to be using in my egg stew. Typically, like I said, you would use mackerel, canned fish, or like smoked mackerel, what we call salmon back in Ghana. But I'm going to be using this fresh or frozen salmon fillets, portions, okay, portions, fillet portions, fillet. Anyway, so these seasonings, as I'm showing you as I live them, these are some great seasonings I love. That is cilantro lime on it. Right now I use garlic, cilantro lime, and was it 6 peppers? And just crush some fresh peppercorns on it, and I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on here, and then I'm just going to rub everything on my fish, and it's going to be ready to be grilled. Simple, delicious. I've made this before. This is not like, sometimes you just sit down and then, randomly make something. To this is not random. I've made very, very similar, almost exact same kind of stew, which was very random with some of this fish, portions that was in my freezer. And it turned out so good, so good, so delicious. Smokiness. I shared that in my Insta stories. I think it's in my highlights. So yeah, a few people tried it and they loved it just as much. So anyway, my fish is prepped. My grill pan is on to my right. It is heating up, and I'm going to start the stew. So I've drizzled or poured some olive oil in my pan, and that is my minced garlic right now in the hot oil. And I'm just going to let this fry a little bit so it gets a little sweaty. I don't want it to caramelize or anything. And then I'll add my onions. So in goes the onions, diced or chopped the way I was taught by mama. And I'm just gonna let this cook a little bit also until it's softer, a little softer and sweaty, and then we'll add whatever else needs to go in there. And I can tell my grill pan is getting heated, it's getting there. And so I couldn't find my cooking spray. I probably ran out, so I just drizzled a little bit of oil onto the pan, and now I'm laying my portions, my salmon portions on here to grill. I love this grill pan. I've had it for years, like, and it's still, it's rusted. I have to say it's rusted on the bottom side where you could make pancakes and stuff, but this is the side I normally use, so it has stayed good because I take good care of that side, and I love to grill indoors with that. Just good. If ever you see something like that, it's a large brand, wherever you meet one, kindly grab it. Grab it because you make so much deliciousness using that. I'm just reducing the heat on my fish. I want it smoky, but I also don't want to burn it. And especially, I don't want that smoke alarm to go off. And look at what I did. I turned on the fire in the back instead of lowering it. Anyway, I figured it out. And so I'm just going to make sure it cooks the way I want, hopefully. Yep, charred. It has all that beautiful grill marks, and it smells so good. Like, a part of me wants to just eat it without putting it in the stew, but if it's intended to go in the stew and into the stew, it has to go. So my onions are pretty cooked now. They're looking beautiful. It's a perfect time for me to add in some peppers, and I'm going to be using smoked paprika. Like I told you, this is a blender free recipe. So you just need some powdered pepper. If you don't have smoked paprika, you have any kind of cayenne pepper, smoked pepper, powdered pepper, or you could also just typically just use crushed peppers, pepper flakes. It will just work as well. So I have here some smoked paprika to bring all that smokiness into my stew. So imagine that smoky flavor plus the smokiness of the fish. Ah, delicious. Trust me, I know because I told you I've made this before and it was good. Very good. So I've now placed in here my diced tomatoes, and I'm just going to go ahead and stir. Then I'll cover so it gets a chance to, the heat that will be trapped in there will be able to cook the tomatoes faster and just help it to just, you know, burst the flesh and everything. It will just disintegrate into the sauce, but not be like, typically blended. It will still have a lot of chunk and texture, and that's how I want it. So I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. So for egg stew, you really don't want to overdo the tomato paste. You want to taste the freshness of all your ingredients, especially the tomatoes. Well, that's what I think. I like it to be, very fresh, taste more of the fresh tomatoes, not overly cooked, and delicious. Yeah, I should say. So this pretty much is how I want it, and I think it's a perfect balance between fresh tomatoes and tomato paste. And like I said, let's make the most of this before, I don't know how long I'm gonna have tomatoes, like fresh tomatoes, but that was like a huge, almost like a box of tomatoes that I got before everything got crazy. So I'm thankful to be able to have that now, but who knows? Anyway, I've covered this now, and my salmon is doing beautifully here. I'm just turning them, and just look here, just gorgeous, gorgeous. Yeah, let me zoom in for you to see it well. All those grill marks, I just love this grill pan. Like, so anyway, my fish is ready, and so I'm bringing it out, and I'll set it aside to cool so I can go ahead and flake it and put it in the stew. And whilst we do that, look at my stew right here. It's doing beautifully, bubbling. Like I said, the heat has helped, all these little diced tomatoes have, burst a little bit. The skin is almost peeling off, and the tomatoes are disintegrating beautifully into the stew. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and leave this uncovered and let it, boil on like medium heat, just so I'll get more of the moisture to come out of it, and of course the tomatoes will fall apart some more. And whilst this goes on, I'm going to go ahead and work on my yam. So I have this yam, and I'm just going to go ahead and peel it. Yeah, we're just going to have some yam with this, and the kids, I made rice for them to have theirs with because yeah, they don't do yam. So yeah, just for the two of us. And I'm just gonna go ahead and slice it, thinly sliced. And I always crack up every time I'm slicing yams because my mom, if it was like, if you made it any thicker than this, she'll ask you, Ade, yeah, they to chokana. Trust me. I didn't have it easy with my mom. Like, she could be very, very, critical on us. Everything had to be a certain way to to be able to please her. But hey, thank God for that. I mean, whatever upbringing she gave us, I think it's paid off. So I'm thankful. Yeah. Even though of course, it will crack me up now. It wasn't funny those days. It was really not funny. So I have my yams boiling now. I added just a little bit of water, covered it, and now look at my stew. Just doing beautifully, beautiful. The color is on point. The aroma, even though it's so simple, trust me, that is what you want. The simplicity is what is like. So if the freshness of the tomatoes, it smells so good, so good. And it has cooked to the perfect time for us to add in our eggs. So I have my eggs, and normally, I do brown eggs, but these are all the brown eggs that I have. Those are normally free range or organic. I had to show you because that day, like when I went in the store, there was no egg, and I only had like a dozen eggs. I was freaking out because I love my eggs. My kids, we eat a lot of eggs, and I was in the queue waiting when finally I see people coming over with, like eggs in their carts, and I'm like, did they bring eggs? Somebody was like, yes, they did. And I started running out of the queue with my cart, and the kind lady that I was behind was like, heck no, you're not going with your cart. You want to go and be in the back of this queue again? Leave it here, I'll watch it. You go get your eggs and come back and be in your spot. Yeah. In the midst of all this craze, we have kind souls out there, and thank God for all those people. Be kind to someone. You don't have to go running for food, and because of food end up hurting yourself or hurting someone. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. This will pass and nobody's gonna starve. Okay, so I have in here like 7 eggs in total. I was going to do 6. I don't know how I ended up doing 7, but it's 7 eggs that I cracked in total. And this is how I do mine. I know some people like to just stir, mix the eggs. I like to just strategically plant my eggs in here like that. Sometimes I just crack them straight over the pot of cooking sauce, so I can just make wells and place them in there just like I'm trying to do. And that way when I cover it and it cooks, you can tell the egg white from the yolk. I love to have those like different textures. I like to bite into the white as well as the yolk. So that's how I do my. I don't stir, but you're welcome to stir if that helps you. And now we are just gonna go ahead and flake salmon, and I'm just going to do 2 portions because I thought, we have all those eggs. These are hard times. We have to act wisely, and I saved 1 portion which I later on made bean stew with, and I'll be sharing that with you as well. So I covered this and let it be on about low heat for almost 5 full minutes. As you can see, it's almost like burning on the bottom, but it's pretty good still. And I'm stirring, but I'm still not stirring like too much because some of the eggs, if it's not cooked all the way through, if I see spots with runny eggs, which I still have in here now, I'm just gonna go ahead and let it sit a little bit so it cooks. And that's what I did. And now I am just gonna go ahead and stir everything completely. And boy, this smells good. Very good. I can't wait. My yam is almost done, and we'll be pretty much soon eating our lunch. This is so good. It smells amazing. It tastes so good. And as you can see, I didn't even add any seasoning cube or anything to it. You want this to be as fresh and as natural as possible. Like so totally, completely free of all MSGs. But the taste is really there. Trust me. And my yam is cooked. I tested it by just pinching it, and it's soft enough. It's almost falling apart. So I strained it in the sink, and now my stew is pretty much done too. I just have a little bit of cilantro that I chopped, and I throw that here, and that is totally optional. But if you know me by now, you know I love cilantro. And of course, I wanted a little bit of color, in the stew. And so the cilantro just did beautifully, beautifully in there. And this is done. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and turn up the heat. You don't want to cook it any longer. It is perfectly fine. And it's time for us to enjoy some good old bayram piscine kusiafoye, boiled yam and egg stew. Just look at this. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Is this calling your name? Well, I hope you still have a few ingredients to be able to make this, but even if you're not able to make it now, I hope this is going to be a resource out there for you so you can make it later. But most importantly, this is to let you know, make use of only what you have at home. There's no point going into the store if it's not absolutely necessary. You don't want to risk yourself, your family, and other people, the whole world at this point. You want to get rid of this pandemic as soon as possible. So our RPC is done, and this was a good experience. We really enjoyed this. I hope this is an inspiration to you. Continue to stay well and safe. And until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy.